and the Knicks' #1 pick.
Voicemail.
Kristaps Porzingis.
1 pick. While I love Zion and the potential of R.J. Barrett, I love Ja Morant, I don't think you give up one of those, you get those guys, and it equals giving up Anthony Davis.
So here's another question for you. This is also very interesting. Let's say they make the trade. Whether it's in the offseason or whether it's before the trade deadline, the Lakers put all their young players out, maybe even add a pick, and they have Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and these guys, these older veterans, on a 1-year deal. They also have enough room to sign another superstar. This is a big free agency class coming up this summer. So it's not just LeBron and AD and a bunch of miscellaneous parts. They could add another superstar. Who could you see realistically joining this tandem in Los Angeles?
So here's how this goes. Once I have LeBron, to me, there are only a couple of people I could pair with him to even put them in conversation to compete against the Warriors. They are Anthony Davis,
Yup.
Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard. That's it.
What do you mean?
That's it. That means if it ain't one of those 3 players alongside LeBron, you could have 2 or 3 more free agents come.
Of course.
It's not going to equal competition.
Now I'm saying under a hypothetical scenario in which they already have AD and LeBron.
Correct.
So what supplemental star could compete with the
There
Warriors?
you go. Now that I got 2 all-NBA cats that could rival KD and Steph, MVP cats, now it's building out the roster. What about a Kemba Walker?
Wait, who's he rep by?
For a nondescript team currently leading them in Charlotte for the last couple of years. Jeff Swartz is his agent. And so this what makes it more interesting, the fact that once you have AD, the willingness of players to come, and also veteran buyouts, also veterans taking less to come be a part of it. All of those dynamics are going to play, just like when LeBron turned to Cleveland, how they built out their roster, and before you knew it, it was a bunch of people that found a way from Miami to Cleveland, whether on the floor or sitting on the behind the bench or on the coaching staff.
Klay Thompson's not leaving Golden State.
No.
You
don't leave nowhere where you get 60 points and 19 dribbles.
Could Boogie Cousins join Anthony Davis and LeBron James?
That's why I brought that up earlier.
The purple and gold?
This is so if you're going to come at the Warriors, you got to come correct.
Of course.
And so if I got LeBron and AD, now I'm on the phone with Boogie. I'm on the phone with Kemba Walker, because based on what Boogie makes now, he ain't going to be able to get a max deal. See, a lot of people don't realize that. You only can do a certain level of escalation from year to year on a salary. So you can pay Kemba the max, and you could give Boogie a pedestrian deal.
Well, his production, because of the roster that he is playing with, is not going to be such where he can sit in an office and demand a max deal.
Well, depending on the team, he can, but not in this situation because he won't need to. He can still go and run with those guys, play his value up more 1 or 2 years, and then go somewhere else and get top dollar. That's what guys are doing now. That's what the league is now.
I love it.
But I have to acknowledge, and it's not the worst thing ever. It's not the worst thing ever. It also is an acknowledgement that as a all-NBA player, as a superstar, you couldn't lead us as the best player to championship glory. That's all that admits.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
Something tells me Kevin Durant sleeps very well at night knowing that. Something tells me it doesn't bother him. Well, I'm going to do the media thing and just acknowledge that even the media thing took this story too far. Over the weekend, Kawhi Leonard purchased a house in San Diego. A very nice house. $13.3 million. Look at that pool. Bigger than Kanye's.
Get it?
Now, obviously, the media said, oh, he bought a house in Southern California. That means he's definitely going to the Clippers or he's definitely going to the Lakers. But here's the thing. That house that we're looking at right now with that nice theater and all that, it is 111 miles away from Los Angeles. 111 miles from Los Angeles. Does this mean anything to you about where he plays next season?
Well, first and foremost, I already said it. If he's leaving Toronto, he's going to the Clippers.
Okay.
This house has nothing to do with that. But what he could do, he could easily get enough money to buy him an apartment in LA.
Something tells me that he could get a nice rental in Los Angeles.
So like the Toronto thing was a great experiment for them because the Casey and DeRozan experience had gone as far as they felt it could. So if he does leave, now that opens up salary for them to rebuild their roster. They knew what they were getting into.
Here's something that's happened that's been completely overshadowed. There was a great game between two championship contenders in the National Basketball Association on Saturday night in primetime on ABC three-letter network. The Warriors and the Celtics in Boston, toe-to-toe, exchanging blows. Great game. Kyrie went off. Steph and KD led their team. But there's an interesting thing to come out of this game. There was a anonymous Warrior who had this to say about your guy, Gordon Hayward. Quote, from the stadium, I talked to a Warriors player who told me, listen, Gordon Hayward is not Gordon Hayward right now. He's hurting them. He's a liability on both ends of the court. Jalen Rose, you've been in the huddle. You've been part of the offensive and defensive strategies, and you know if you think that someone's a liability, you can exploit that to win a basketball game. This is your guy. You love Gordon Hayward. You've been talking about him for years. Is this anonymous Warriors player correct?
Yes.
He is.
And the one thing about it is I did not need this Warrior player to say it. Look no further than the fact they paid him a maximum deal.
Mm-hmm.
He started the year in the lineup as it was being introduced at the beginning of the game. Then he quickly became a reserve. Also, look at his productivity. It's not there. On the defensive end, he was never a guy you consider a lockdown defender. He is an effort player and a team defender.
It was a liability, though.
But what makes you a liability is we got all of these assets, but they're stuck with one. Him. Of all of the players on the team, that's the one. He's like the one fixed variable on their roster, and he's not performing. But look no further than Paul George in the season that he's having to say that this might not be the Gordon Hayward that we have moving forward. Absolutely. It takes him a year or so to get back together.
Of course. Coming up next on Jalen Jacoby, because of the Anthony Davis news, we haven't even gotten to the fact that Chris Paul is back with the Rockets and James Harden is on a historic scoring streak. We'll break it all down after this. O.J. Simpson is just days from becoming a free man. However, coming to you live from the South Street Seaport Pier 17 and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, so much news about Anthony Davis. That's big news in the NBA has been overshadowed. Last night, while getting waxed by the Magic, the Rockets were at home getting beat by the Magic. They were down double digits in the fourth quarter. You'll never believe this. The Rockets came back to win the game. James Harden extended his historic winning streak to another game. How has he changed his game as teams have adjusted the way they defend him?
So there's a couple of things that have happened in this dynamic of analytics. And the Houston Rockets, led by James Harden and Daryl Morey, and now Mike D'Antoni as their head coach, have championed the fact that we want our team to shoot threes, shoot free throws, shoot layups and dunks. I remember in the offseason when they had Carmelo Anthony and he shot a long two, it was jokes. Mm-hmm. He looked to the sideline and was like, my bad.
And he made it too.
A couple of years ago when they were playing against the Spurs in the playoffs, what they did was they suffocated the three-point line. Mm-hmm. They exaggerated James's left hand, and they forced him to the help where they could have somebody at the rim contest or block the shot. You know why? He wasn't playing mid-range. Now you see him playing mid-range.
He does.
They're doing dribble handoffs to get him to his left hand, turning down the middle. And you can tell he's not used to shooting his runner or floater because it still looks unorthodox and a little uncomfortable.
Yep.
Even though he made a couple in the previous game, that's the difference. He's making multiple buckets that are mid-range shots now. That's unlocked his offense, which is what has allowed him to put up even bigger numbers.
And to seal the game last night against the Magic, he did something, is the step-back three we talk about all the time. We talk about his step-back three, blah, blah, blah. But now, when you're going to the hole, he steps back to a mid-range. Because when he's already going downhill, you're chasing alongside of him as a defender. You're thinking he's going to the rim. Got to keep him from going to the rim. Don't foul him. And then he just stops on a dime, and he sealed the game against the Magic last night with a nice little, 14-foot wide-open jump shot on a step-back. It was brilliant. Now, there's another big game that was overshadowed last night. The Thunder in Oklahoma City hosted the Bucks. This was a great game, and it was capped off by this dunk and Paul George's fourth quarter heroics. Paul George has not just seen himself return to form. He's now legitimately on the outskirts of the MVP conversation, and he, not Russell Westbrook, is the person who makes all the clutch shots in the fourth quarter. Jalen, what has the resurgence of Paul George shown you?
That Russell Westbrook has grown as a player. When he performed next to KD and his field goal percentage was a little higher, though KD led the league in scoring 4 times, Russell led the league in Russell led the team in shot attempts. And it was validated because they were both compatible at putting up big numbers. I want to say they were the first duo to score 50 and 40 in the same game. Like, they were outstanding lifting that team together, and I wanted to see them play together for a long time. Now you come into this season when you're shooting around 30% or below from 3, and Paul George has been lights out scoring the basketball. Russ can still play his floor game and average his triple-double, but at the same time acquiesce to the fact that when there's a big shot out of a timeout, it's going to Paul George. And now that that dynamic was figured out this season, it's giving Paul George confidence to actually go out there and be like, an MVP is giving me the ball? So now he feels that elite level of pressure that you welcome, that, oh, I got to step up. I got to perform. And so now he's able to do that with a great supporting cast surrounding him. This is why I've said all season, there are going to be people that jump on the bandwagon now, and it's fine. The only 2 teams in the West, as they're currently constructed, so I know we're still moving pieces on the chessboard, that can force the Golden State Warriors to a long series are OKC and Houston. Kenneth Faried was a terrific pickup. A little big man that's going to catch lobs for Houston and play defense. But OKC, they blocked 7 shots of the Greek Freak shots. Why? They have multiple players that can switch, and they have length. That's what I like about what they've done by building their roster.
And again, there's a couple things I want to say. Number one is people always talk about PG and Westbrook and that duo and whose team is this. I think that conversation is silly to me. What people forget is the Thunder play defense at one of the best teams in the league at playing defense. And Robinson's going to come back, and he's one of their best wing defenders. Like, it's the defense, this team, that carries them, not necessarily, because we have Westbrook and PG, a duo in the game.
See, and I'm here to teach. The reason why I say those 2 teams in particular is because they have 2 all-stars, each of them, and they have a big that's going to make Boogie and or Draymond work in Adams and Capella.
And not just Adams, is Grant's been playing great this year, and Nerlens Noel has been playing great this year as well, especially in the defensive end. Like, I love this Thunder team, and people need to see that it's not just PG.
Ferguson has improved. He's knocking down shots.
Rose,
Grant catches lobs.
When we come back, we've discovered a video that is the secret to your hairline and your hair. I'm going to accuse you of something that you're not ready for right after this.
Jalen and Jacoby is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save one of these.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, I saw a video on my telephone this morning that blew my mind, and it made me think about you. So whenever we have to really break down a video, it's time for you and I to go to the table. Look at this man getting this done to his hair. Okay? Now, what are you thinking right now? What are the thoughts in your head? Wave caps going on? It looks terrible at this point, right? Like, he had that glued to his head like a carpet. Now we get the shape up. And now we get the little Beijing sprayed on there. And you got to see the results. It looked great. Jalen Rose, did we just discover why your hairline looks so good?
Not at all, because for public consumption, between being a McDonald's All-American in high school, where you can see my hair and how I rock my cut, parts in my head and whatnot, at the University of Michigan, before I cut it bald, it clearly preserved the opportunity now for me to be almost 46 on Wednesday and still have my hair in my hairline.
Can we just take a look at the video again? Because it really evolves. Like, when it starts, I'm just looking at it like, they're just gluing hair to this man's head. It goes down to his eyes. It just looks terrible at this point. Then a little blow dry, a little trim, and throw the wave cap on there.
Anybody that knows me would know first, I ain't the dude that's about to let somebody glue anything to my head.
Yeah.
I take what's happening on top of my head serious because I have brains in there, okay? So I would rather have a bald head than glue on top of it.
And again, like, you can look at this and say, that's ridiculous. This isn't fair. Like, his hairline looks so good. But there's a lot of women out there with some extensions. It's no different. And the results looked good. They really did look good.
The results look great, but it didn't make me feel like, in X amount of years, if I needed some support, would I do that?
No.
I'll let everybody know right now. Soon as that becomes a crack in this Liberty bill, I'm going bald. So don't even worry about it.
Well, there's so much talk today.
Can I say one more thing about hair?
Sure.
Because I want to make sure I say this on wax. Because I like to be first and foremost authority of industry tastemaking. I'm liking a fad that I'm seeing taking place in the NBA.
I know what you're talking about.
Players wearing braids looking like they're fresh out.
Oh, like Brandon Ingram?
There are multiple players. Brandon Ingram, Marcus Smart, James Johnson,
Marcus
Josh
Saturday,
Richardson.
I was just looking at that, like, that must take a long time.
There are multiple players that are rocking that look, and I just want to give them a salute because I ain't mad at it.
Very quickly, there's so much talk about Anthony Davis and LeBron James teaming up on the Lakers, but there's something that's being overlooked in all of this. Lance Stevenson. Last night, I stayed up and watched Lance. This guy, spin around, Lance. Why don't you just spin around again? And then pass it to JaVale. JaVale, he ruined that shot. But Lance went off last night. Oh, fake, nope, dime. Like, Lance had 17 points in 22 minutes. LeBron James might sit out a few more games just to get his time. Because he was strumming the guitar like he was Willie Nelson last night. Look at him out there.
I must say this, and I don't want to be the guy that's busting his arm to pat himself on the back, but when I hear Jay-Z say World Wide West on a Drake record, I do smile. When I hear so many people now saying Lance make him dance, just know where it came from.
Just know where it came from. And remember where the Anthony Davis news first came from. We'll be back tomorrow with much more on this big news in the NBA.
We'll be back.